subscribe and click the bell icon to turn on notifications.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Getting Started in Microsoft Planner. Now this is part one of a two-part video series we're doing on Planner because it has a lot of functionality that we weren't able to pack into just one video without making it extremely long. Now before we get started to jump into this demonstration, let me explain to you exactly what Planner is if you've never used it before. So Microsoft Planner is a planning app that offers you a visual way to manage and track progress on projects or on other work that you might have. And Planner is available to anyone with a paid subscription to Microsoft 365. And that might be a personal plan that you've paid for yourself, or possibly a business or enterprise plan that's been paid for by your company. And much like the other Microsoft 365 apps, Planner is available on the web and also as a mobile app. So you can really keep up to date with what you're doing when you're on the go. Now, when we jump into Planner, the first thing you'll notice is it has this kind of card interface. So if you've ever used an application such as Trello, it's quite similar in style to that. And Planner really serves as a hub where your team members can create business or project plans and organize tasks. So let's dive in and take a look around. Now, the first thing you're going to need to do if you haven't done it already is download and log into Planner. Now, Planner can be accessed a few different ways. You can go to the Planner website, which is the page that I'm actually on now, and you can sign in with your Microsoft 365 account credentials to access it. Alternatively, you can just jump straight to your Microsoft 365 portal, and if you click on the App Launcher and expand all of your apps, you should find that under here somewhere, there it is, we have Planner. So I'm going to click to jump into it that way. And as I mentioned, Planner is also available on mobile devices for both Android and iOS. So if you want to have it on your phone, then just jump across to the App Store and download it. Now, when you first go into Planner, you'll be directed to your Planner Hub. And if you cast your eyes over to the left-hand side of the screen, you can see Planner Hub is what I currently have highlighted. Now, for me, what this is showing are all of the recent plans that I've created. I can show all of the plans that I've created, and it will also show any plans that I've marked as favorites up here. Now, currently, I don't have any because we're going to do that in a moment. So what this Planner Hub essentially shows are all of the plans that you've created yourself or plans that have been added by other people. And it's worth noting at this point that if you are using Planner with a personal Microsoft 365 subscription, you'll only be able to see plans you've created for yourself in the Planner Hub. Now, I keep mentioning this magic word plan, so let's dive in and create a plan. So this is pretty straightforward. We're going to go over to our left-hand menu, and the first icon that we have there, the plus, is New Plan. As you would expect, I need to give my new plan a name, and I'm going to call this Simon Says It. I can choose to add this plan to an existing Microsoft 365 group if I have one. I don't, so I'm going to skip over this option, because what I want to do here is set my privacy settings for this particular plan. And the two options I have are public, which means that anyone in my organization can see the contents of any plans that I create, or I can set my privacy to private. So that means only members that I add can see my plan contents. And if I click this options drop down, that just allows me to add in a description for this plan if I want to. Now I'm actually going to create a private plan. So I select my option, click on Create Plan. And what you'll see is over in the left-hand pane, it's now added Simon Says It as a plan under Recent Plans. And if I jump back to the Planner Hub, you'll also see it there listed at the top of Recent Plans and also underneath All Plans. So I'm going to click to jump back into it. Now, when you create a plan, you're going to be looking at the board first of all. So this is essentially where you can add all of your tasks and organize and manage them. And you can see here currently I have a bucket, and a bucket is just another name for a group, called To Do. And this one is created by Planner whenever you create a new plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few tasks into this to-do list. And you can see my cursor is flashing in enter a task name. So let's just say create reference guide. I can choose to set a due date on this task. So let's say that this needs to be done by next Monday. And if I want to, I can choose to assign this task to somebody else. Now, currently the task is unassigned. And the only option I'm getting is to assign the task to myself. Now that's because when I created this plan, I set the privacy settings to private. So currently I'm the only member who has access to this plan. So what I'm going to do for the time being is I'm going to leave that to unassigned because I actually do want to assign this to another member of my team. So I'm going to click away and select Add Task. And there we go. It's now moved underneath. And something that might confuse you first of all is that it actually leaves the Add Task panel open so that it's super quick for you just to go in and add multiple tasks. So let's add another one. I'm going to say we've got a webinar coming up. I'm going to set a due date of next Wednesday, and I'm actually doing this one, so I'm going to assign it to myself and click away to add that task and click on Add Task. And of course I can carry on going. Now, as I just mentioned, I'm the only member of this plan, so it might be time to add some other people, let them in on the fun, which means I can then assign tasks to them. So in the top right hand corner, I have a members drop down. And what I can do is enter a name to add a member. So I'm going to add Ben Smith, and I'm also going to add Adam Lacey. So now that all three of these are members of my team, if I want to assign a task to them, I can click the three dots in the corner of the task, click Assign, and then choose who I want to assign this task to. So I'm going to assign this to Adam, like so. Now currently, looking at these tasks, they don't really contain a great deal of detail other than the title of the task and possibly a due date. So what I might want to do is jump into the task and add a little bit more information. So let's jump into this webinar task. Let's click on it, and it's going to allow me to add some more detail. So at the top here, I can see who this task is assigned to. So currently that is myself. I can choose to add a label. So essentially I can color code my tasks. So this is kind of similar to categories in Outlook. It's just a visual way of being able to immediately see what tasks belong to which category. And of course you can go through and rename all of these so that they're not just the generic color names. So I'm going to click the pencil to edit this one, and let's call this one Meetings. I'm going to edit this one and call it Project A. This one's going to be Webinars. And then I'm going to go through and rename the rest of these Project B, C, and D, like so. So I'm going to add a label just to color code this and categorize it. And I'm going to add the label Webinars simply by clicking on it. Now you can add more than one label to a task, but I'm going to leave it there for the time being. Next, underneath, I can choose what bucket this task is assigned to. Now, we haven't spoken much about buckets yet, but currently the only bucket that I have, the only group, is the to-do bucket. And you'll see if I click the drop down, I have nothing else to select. Now, when we start adding buckets in, you will start to see this list grow, and you can choose which bucket you want to assign your task to. So we're going to come back to this a little bit later. I can choose the current progress of this task. So this is a webinar that takes place next week, so I'm just going to leave this on Not Started. The priority for this is pretty low, so let's change that. And then I can choose the start date. So this webinar is happening on Wednesday the 10th of November, and it's also due on Wednesday the 10th of November. I can type in some notes for this particular task, and if I want to show those notes on the task card, I can click this little option here, Show on Card, which means that if you look just behind, it now shows those notes on the card in the actual plan. And then finally, right at the bottom here, I can add some checklist items. So maybe there are some mini tasks or preliminary tasks that I need to do prior to this task commencing. So when I'm running a webinar in general, I'll have to prep My notes, I'm going to add that in as a checklist item. I usually test the webinar software. That's something else I need to do. And I also need to book a meeting room so I can do this webinar somewhere silent. And these themselves act like little mini checklist items. Now it might be that instead of showing the planner notes on the card, I want to show these checklist items instead. So I could say show on card, and I can now see those on the card behind. Now unfortunately you can't have both, it's either one or the other, and you'll see that they toggle off and toggle on. Now finally at the bottom I can add any additional material via an attachment, so that might be something like a Word document or a PowerPoint presentation. And then finally at the bottom I can type in any further comments I have about this task. So I'm pretty happy with that level of detail. I'm going to close this window and my task is now a lot more meaningful to look at. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've added a few more tasks into my list. And I've added quite a lot of detail to these tasks, so you can see that I've assigned this task, create OneNote training video, to two of us, both Ben and myself are going to be working on that. This one is marked as important and it's currently in progress. And then this task just here, the Project B catch-up meeting, that's been tagged with two labels, both meetings and Project B. It's an urgent task. I have a due date and all three of us are going to be working on that meeting. Now currently I have all of these tasks contained within the to-do bucket. And as I mentioned earlier, you can create your own buckets and assign tasks to those buckets. So it's really just a way of organizing all of your tasks into more manageable lists. If you just carried on adding tasks in this way, you'd end up with an extremely long to-do list, which makes it difficult to see all the different tasks. So I'm going to add a couple of new buckets. So let's click Add New Bucket. And this bucket I'm going to call Clients. And hit enter. And let's add one more bucket. This one is going to be meetings. And maybe I want a third bucket that just says done. And now what I can do is I can add tasks directly for these specific buckets, or I can move existing tasks to these buckets. So for example, this one here is a meeting about Project B. I'm going to pick up the card, drag and drop it underneath the meetings bucket to move it. This one is Project C, so that's related to a client, so that's going to go under there. Project D is also a client, so let's put that just there. And I'm going to leave webinars in my to-do bucket. So very quickly I've been able to organize and manage these tasks. Now it's also worth noting that when it comes to buckets, whilst you can add your own custom buckets as I've done there, Planner also contains some preset buckets that you can group by. So again, right up in the top corner, you can see currently it's set to group by bucket. If I click that drop down, I could choose to group by assigned to. And that's going to arrange those cards in a slightly different way. So you can see all of the team members at the top and it's showing which tasks are assigned to those particular team members. I could group them by the progress. So I currently have 2 tasks that have not started, 2 in progress and none that are completed. I can organize by due date, which can be quite useful, labels, and then finally priority. And if I want to go back to my original layout, I just group by bucket again. So this is really useful and I use these interchangeably to switch between different ways of viewing my tasks. Another useful option in this same area is the filter option. So if I click this drop down, I can choose to filter my tasks by specific pieces of criteria. So if I want to see all of the tasks that are due next week, I can select that. I can expand priority and select all of the tasks that are urgent. Now I can see that currently I have none, so I'm going to change that to no date. So if I remove my date filter, it's now showing me that I have one task that is marked as urgent. I'm going to remove that urgent filter and let's say I want to see all of the tasks that are in progress and that are assigned to the clients bucket. And that is pretty much what I already have there. Now if I've made a lot of selections in this filter and I just want to clear them all, I can click the clear button at the top to pull everything back. So some really useful options in this menu at the top. And the final thing I want to mention in part 1 of this video is that any tasks that have been assigned to you, if you click on My Tasks in that left-hand menu, you're going to see all of those tasks, and at the moment I've got them grouped into progress buckets. And once again, if I wanted to change that, I can click the drop down and maybe group them by priority or possibly even due date. So that's it for part 1 of this video. In part 2, we're going to be picking up where we left off, and I'm going to show you how you can do things like complete tasks, how you can organize your plans, how you can see high-level analysis of all of your plan activity using charts and schedules, and finally how you can connect to other Microsoft 365 applications. So that's it for now, and I look forward to you joining me in part 2. Hello everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of Getting Started with Microsoft Planner. So we're picking up where our last video left off. And if you recall, we created ourselves a new plan called Simon Says It. And if you recall, we added some basic tasks to our plan. We then added additional information into those tasks. We assigned them to different team members, added labels, and also organized them into customized buckets. So we're going to pick up from this point, and I'm going to start out by showing you how you complete a task. So once a task is finished, you're going to want to change its status to completed. So let's look at this webinars task that I currently have in my to-do bucket. I'm going to click on the task to open up the information page. And all we need to do here is we're just going to change this progress drop-down to say that the task has been completed. Now, as soon as I do that, you'll see that it gets a green tick. The word webinar now has a strike through. And if I close this down, you'll see that it's now been removed from my to-do bucket, but I can still view it underneath this show completed. So if I want to expand this, it's going to show me all of the completed tasks for this particular bucket. So they don't completely delete, you still have access to see them. And I find this is sometimes helpful if I'm trying to make a list of everything that I've accomplished in that week for my weekly team meeting. Now, an even quicker way of completing a task is by clicking in the circle next to the task name. So let's go to our next task along, create OneNote training video. If both Ben and myself have completed this, all I need to do is click in the circle. That's going to mark it as complete, it's going to remove it from my bucket, and once again I can click the drop down arrow underneath just to show that completed task. Now once I do start completing tasks, I then might want to reorganize the way that I'm viewing these tasks so that I can see in a big long list all of the ones that are completed. So if I jump up to group by bucket and change it to progress, I can now see the tasks that are not started, the ones that are in progress, and then the ones that are completed. Now, after you've been using Planner for a while, you'll probably find that you have many plans. So this area just here, particularly underneath all plans, starts to get a little bit chaotic. So it's really useful to be able to organize your plans and possibly mark the ones that you use most often as favorites. And you'll see just above, we have a little section here for favorite plans. So maybe out of all of the plans that I'm a member of, I only really interacted 2 of them. So they might be the 2 that I use most often. So to make them super simple for me to access, as opposed to having to scroll through a huge long list of different plans, what I can do is favorite them. So I'm going to hover my mouse over Simon Says It, and you can see I get the little star icon, which I can click, and that's going to add that plan into my favorites. I'm going to go down to the Train IT Now plan, and I can do this a slightly different way. I can click on the 3 dots on the card, and from here I can select Add to Favorites. And what you'll notice is that when I add these plans, the card is showing some useful statistics about the activity that's been occurring in these plans. So on a quick glance, I can see that we have 1 task not started, 1 in progress, 0 that are running late, and 2 that are completed. Now, something else that you can do from this Planner Hub is, again, if we click the 3 dots on the Simon Says It plan, I obviously can remove it from favorites, but I can also copy the plan. So if I want to quickly create a new plan, which basically has all the same settings as the Simon Says It plan, so that might include all of the tasks and all of the members, I can say copy plan. I can rename it. Now I'm just going to leave it as copy of Simon Says It so I can easily identify it. And I can select a group to copy it to. So I'm going to select the plan, Simon Says It. Now it's going to copy across things like tasks and members, but I also have some additional things that I can include. So I'm going to include the description, any checklist items, and also the labels, but I could choose to include dates and priorities as well. Let's select copy plan. And I will say that the times that I've done this, it can sometimes take a few seconds for it to actually work as it copies across all of those settings. But there we go, I can see that it's been successful. And now if I look under all plans or even recent plans, there is my copy of Simon Says It. And if I click on it and jump in, you'll see that everything is pretty much the same. I have all of the tasks and all of the same members. So that's a nice quick way just to copy all of the settings of a specific plan across to a new plan. Now the final thing I want to show you in here, again, if we click on the three dots, I can also copy the link to a plan. And you can see as I've done that, it says link copied to clipboard. So if I want to invite somebody to this plan, instead of adding them as a member from within the plan, I could just choose to copy the link, paste it into an email or maybe something like a Teams conversation, send that out to them, and then they can join the plan that way. Now I'm going to jump into my Simon Says It plan again, because so far in this training video, we've been working predominantly in the board area. And of course, because the board is what shows all of our task carts. But we do have a couple of other options up here, so let's jump in and explore those. So if I click on charts, this is going to show me something very similar to what we can see on that card when we add it to favorites. So this basically gives me a high-level overview of all of the plan activity. So I can see how the tasks are broken down by status, bucket, priority, and also member. So this is just really some at-a-glance statistics. And if I jump across to schedule view, this will open up a calendar, and it's basically going to show me in this calendar format the tasks where I've assigned things like due dates. Now the final thing that I want to show you in Microsoft Planner is how you can connect to other applications. So if we jump up to the three dots next to schedule, this is going to open up a big long list of different items. Now everything in the lower half of this list, so everything underneath this line, relate to the plans within Microsoft Planner. So for example, I can remove this plan from favorites, I can copy the plan, I can even export the plan out to Microsoft Excel. So let's click this, and what you'll see is it downloads an Excel spreadsheet, and if I click to open, you can see that it basically exports all of that task information out to an Excel spreadsheet. Now for this type of thing, you're probably going to want to do some tidying up of this data, but very simply you can see things like the plan name, it's got the plan ID and also the date of export. We then have task ID listed here, the task name, the bucket it belongs to, the progress priority assigned to, so on and so forth. So quite a lot of information that you can export out. So that's a nice, useful little feature for those of you who want to do further analysis in Excel. Let's jump back into our options. I can copy a link to the plan, which we talked about earlier. I can jump into plan settings and just review the settings that I have set up for group email. And then finally, I can add my plan to my Outlook calendar. So those are all the options I have in the lower half of this menu. Now the items in the top half of this menu essentially link out to other parts of Microsoft 365. So for example, if I click on conversation, it basically opens up my Outlook email and jumps me into an Outlook group that it's created called Simon Says It. And that's a point that's worth noting. When you do create a new plan in Planner, it will be added as a group within your Outlook. And it just means that you can have conversations with the members of your plan and do things like share files, connect your apps, add team sites, things like that. And if I click on Start a Conversation in here, it basically sets up an email going to the members of that plan. So in this case, that would be Adam and Ben. So a nice piece of interaction just there between those applications. The same thing here, if I click on Members, it's going to jump me into my Outlook contacts. And once again, it's going to create a contact group called Simon Says It. And within that group, we have the 3 members of the plan. If I select Files, this jumps me across to a SharePoint site called Simon Says It, where I can do things like upload documents, create team sites, things like that. So I hope you're getting the idea here as to how integrated all of these Microsoft 365 applications are. It's pretty cool that as soon as you create a plan in Planner, it kind of outputs that plan name and its settings and members to all of these different applications ready for you to use. And let's just take a look at the final 2. So this option will basically jump us across to OneNote, where we can create a team notebook, again, with the members of this plan. And then finally, Sites is also going to jump us back into SharePoint. So that's pretty much it. That is a whistle-stop tour of the main features of Microsoft Planner. I hope you found this interesting and you feel a little bit more knowledgeable about how everything works and are now able to make a better decision as to if Planner is something that you might like to use. I hope you enjoyed that, guys. I will see you in the next video tutorial.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so you get notified about similar videos we upload. To get 4 free courses in Excel, QuickBooks, Microsoft Project, and Photoshop, click over there. And click over there to see more videos from Simon Says It.